Hello, hello everyone. It's me, Arden Lee. I am back today with another video, and in today's video, I want to talk about the concepts of attachment and detachment. We hear these words thrown around quite a bit in the spiritual communities, in the personal growth and self-improvement communities, and let's talk today about what do they mean and how can we use an understanding of these concepts to cultivate more peace and flow and harmony within our lives. What does it mean to be attached to things? What does it mean to be detached from things? Where are each of those things useful? And how can we apply that understanding in order to optimize our lives for greater success and happiness and ease and flow and abundance? Those those are the kinds of things that I love to talk about on this channel in particular. How do we create lives? How do we use our everyday choices to create lives that are more in alignment with the things that we want? So if that sounds like your jam, I would love to invite you to subscribe to my channel if you have not done so already. So go ahead and hit that button and let me know how these videos are hitting for you. Let me know what's useful. Let me know if there's a topic that I have not yet presented on that you would like to see me address. And if that's something that I feel like I'm qualified to do, then I will do my best to do that for you. And, stay in touch and, let me know. All right, so let's talk today about attachment and detachment. This is one of those concepts where it's like these words get thrown around a lot, and I almost feel sometimes like I'm so accustomed to using them as shorthand that really dropping in and saying, what is this and how do we use this? Requires me to go back to those basics again and to really remember so much of why I do this work in the first place. Attachment is the idea that we are clinging to something. We are attached to things looking a certain way. We are attached to having certain outcomes, having certain people in our lives. We feel that if we don't have these things, or if things don't go the way that we envision them, then it's going to cause us anxiety. And attachment is something where if things don't look a certain way, then we feel that discord between what we feel we want to be happening and what is really happening in reality. What is detachment, on the other hand? Detachment means that we may envision something, we may have feelings about things, but ultimately we understand that people and things and places and outcomes in our lives may come and go, and that ultimately being in the truth of the moment and really feeling into the reality of the situation is going to help us far more than having that anxiety regarding the discrepancy between what is and how we want things to be. So hopefully that makes sense so far, right? Attachments, generally, we have attachments to sometimes to people, to certain things in our lives being certain ways, or to say like our relationships or our situations. We have sometimes attachments to our jobs, to our job titles. We have attachments to social circles that we belong to. And it's perfectly fine to feel resonance and to say, this thing is important to me. This person in my life is important to me. This job that I have is important to me. This relationship that I have is important to me. This home that I have is important to me. And it's natural that when things that are important to us start to unfold in a way that we did not anticipate, where we go from that resonance, from that feeling of, yes, this is great, when we move from that to a feeling of that stretching, where that attachment starts to come up because we feel ourselves pulling or going out of our center in order to keep something, that clinging feeling, that's when attachment becomes unhealthy. And detachment is that practice of being able to let go and being able to say, you know what, if there is no longer a resonance here for me, then I am okay with letting things come in and out of my field as they want to, as as things unfold, as the natural course of events goes its way. And certainly it may be useful for me to um, to do things that honor those resonances, to appreciate and show gratitude and nurture those connections that mean things to me. But if it ever reaches a point where I feel like I am too pulled out of my center and pulled out of my integrity when I do that, then I'm going to let go of that attachment because it's no longer serving me. Does all that make sense so far? Sorry for my sniffles, you guys. So essentially, the practice of detachment is an understanding of this truth. Clinging to something is not going to help it stay in our field. We have never had a relationship that has been healthy and has benefited us when we have taken actions that pull us off center in order to keep it. When we allow our attachments to things to pull us into courses of action or feelings or emotions, or courses of actions that produce feelings or emotions that don't feel good to us. Detachment, the art of detachment, is the ability to let something go when it has run its course. So I'm not going to come in and say that all attachments are bad. I think there are people, especially in spiritual communities, who love to say like, oh, I have no attachments. I'm not attached to anything. But really, we all need connection. We all need shelter. We all need to be able to support ourselves in this capitalist hellscape. So certainly there is nothing wrong with having a healthy attachment to the friendships that you have in your life, to the relationships that you have in your life, to your job, etc., etc. However, what are you going to do if all of a sudden your job turns into a toxic environment? How attached are you to the specificity of the way that those things show up for you? If you have an attachment to a friendship, and yet all of a sudden that friendship no longer feels in alignment, are you going to stress yourself out saying, oh my God, what do I do to get this person back? Or how can I make this work? It's fine to ask, how can I make this work? You know, that's a fairly healthy question. But if it gets to a point where you find that you are starting to behave in ways that don't feel in alignment with your integrity or don't feel good to you because you are attached to an outside circumstance showing up in a certain way, then that's not going to benefit you in the long run. This idea of clinging, this idea of adjusting ourselves so that we don't lose something outside of ourselves is, well, that can cause a lot of anxiety and pain. I've certainly been there myself. And in taking that moment to revisit what it was like for me when I was there in that place, and seeing how I can best communicate that to you who are watching this right now. What I remember specifically about those times was that I always felt, because I'm a pretty smart person, that there must be a way for me to figure out how to keep someone in my life. There must be something that I could do. There must be some course of action that I could take that would solve this problem. But I wasn't seeing the bigger picture. And the bigger picture was that in spending all of this time crafting exactly the right text message to send, or, you know, figuring out the perfect outfit to show up in, or how was I going to bend or recreate myself so that this person would not want to abandon me. What I was failing to see was I was failing to see the bigger picture, where I was engaging so much of my energy keeping things that weren't really meant for me as I am. If it's true that clinging to something won't actually make it a fit for you, then it's also true that letting go of things will also not affect their resonance with you. Letting go of something will not mean that it's not a fit for you. It's only been in the last couple of years that I've really started to understand that old phrase, if you love something, let it go. If it returns to you, it's yours. And if it doesn't return to you, then it was never yours in the first place. Because ultimately what we're talking about is compatibility and resonance. We're talking about whether things are a fit for one another. And if you act in your integrity, and that includes nurturing those relationships in a healthy way that feels good to you, if you are in alignment with your integrity and nurturing those relationships in a healthy way that feels good to you, then there's nothing beyond that that can make a puzzle piece fit where it doesn't want to fit. And so often, the reason our attachments are damaging is because they pull us out of our integrity and they cause us to spend all this energy trying to keep something in our lives, trying to keep something in our field, where that energy is actually far better spent becoming the version of ourselves that is most authentic, so that what we can actually do is attract those puzzle pieces that do fit. Because the more we are ourselves, the more we commit to being the best versions of ourselves, the more things are going to show up for us that are in alignment with that best version of ourselves. And that's where practicing detachment comes into play. Detachment means that when a friendship is over, I let it be over. When a romantic relationship starts to turn sour, I allow it to be what it is. And certainly that doesn't mean that there's not a part of me that may want to fix it or navigate it or problem solve, because navigating and problem solving is going to be an inherent part of all of your healthy friendships and relationships. But what it does mean is that when it becomes clear that something is no longer a fit for me, that something is no longer an energetic match to where I am, then I'm able to let it go, because I can examine it in the context of the reality of the present moment and not what I want reality to look like. And I can say, is this really serving me? Is this really working out? Or is this something that is actually causing me stress and anxiety? So understanding how to release your attachments, at least the parts that are unhealthy for you, the parts that are causing that anxiety and that pull that doesn't feel good. Understanding how to release that and practice a healthy amount of detachment instead, to say, I'm willing to let things go if they're not good for me anymore. I'm willing to, even a job environment, I'm willing to let this job go if it means that, that ultimately it's going to open a door to something better. Now, that doesn't mean that I just want to quit my job and not pay my bills, of course, but it does mean that with that ease and softness and grace, I can say, hey, this situation might not be the best one for me, and I'm going to look into what I need to do to upgrade my situation so I can let this one go. Or maybe you just lose your job and you choose to practice detachment and not be upset about it. And you say, you know what? This is just an opportunity for me to do something better. So I'm gonna let go. I'm not gonna stress about it. I'm not gonna take it personally. I'm just gonna trust that something better is gonna show up for me. And ultimately, detachment is about that trust that something better can show up for you when something is not a fit. So releasing that unhealthy attachment to something that isn't a fit for you, that isn't right, that isn't causing you good feelings, that isn't causing you this isn't bringing positivity or somehow improving or bettering your life in some way. Letting that go and making space for the thing that is in alignment with you, and detaching so that you can empty that cup and fill it up with something that is better, that is more in alignment with your present reality. Thank you guys for watching. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you in the next video.